Hello and welcome to the Workwise for Screen podcast, created to help our screen industries better look after all the people their businesses depend on.
And stay on safe, legal ground. It's part of a growing collection of practical resources and guidance that you can dip into without it taking you forever or costing you anything. It's supported by the BFI, awarding National Lottery funding.
We'll be talking with people across production, distribution and exhibition, animation, VFX and gaming about the challenges to well-being we face when deadlines and budgets are tight, and how, most importantly, to improve things. We're your hosts, Sally Bendtson, founder of Limelight HR, the HR for entertainment one.
And I'm Keith Arrowsmith, the legal one, a creative industry solicitor and programme director for Workwise for Screen. Welcome to the Workwise for Screen podcast. Unfortunately, Tasita can't be with us today, but I've got Sally Bendtson with us. She joined us at our Sheffield event and talked about recruitment, and there's a bonus podcast episode that deals with that topic. But I'm delighted that you've come back and you can be with me today, Sally.
Thank you, and thanks for inviting me back.
I think you'd say that recruitment is one of the things that we've just got to get right in the screen sector.
Yes, absolutely. It's something that every company, every manager struggles with, but it's ultimately the basis for the future of the business and the future of the company and achieving everything they want to achieve. So it's absolutely important to get it right from the beginning.
And what we want to do today is focus on the changes that we might be facing in our businesses as we think about our future. And just the speed of change at the moment, the kind of pressures that we might be feeling, and how we cope with looking after our colleagues when we've got that kind of level of uncertainty around us. And I think that's especially important when we're dealing with smaller organisations. But you've worked with some of the big production companies as well as the smaller local projects.
Yes, absolutely. And do you know, through from the ones that are full of tens of thousands of people through to the small businesses that have maybe got 5, it's still the same challenges. All the hiring managers are in the same position. They're just trying to build a team that can do really great things and to make sure that they get it right the first time. So it's interesting, whichever size of business I work with, everybody cares about it the same amount and the impact is still just as big, whatever size the organisation is.
We're going to have a quick conversation with Sara Putt, who knows all about this subject. Now, Sara established her company, Sara Putt Associates, back in 1989. In 2021, the partnership group was formed with Sara Putt Associates, Sales Screen, and the Artist Partnership to make sure those opportunities were looked after in the best possible way. So we've got all of that experience to talk through today. But Sara's also the chair of BAFTA, where she's been a trustee since 2014. And she's a trustee of the Film and TV charity. So Sarah's going to be wearing lots and lots of hats and sees it from lots and lots of different ways. And I think that kind of breadth of knowledge is going to be really helpful as we kind of ask ourselves what we can do to help look after those people we have on our team going forward. So let's think about how we address this issue of the fast-paced change that we're all experiencing. And I think that one of the really interesting things that Sara said in the BAFTA speech she gave earlier this year was around the need for everyone in the industry, whether you're a freelancer or whether you're a big industry player, to find resilience and to find a way of adapting to this pace of change. So I'm going to ask her about that. Sara, hello. Thanks for joining us.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Your BAFTA speech really, I think, helped us focus on what we do need to do for the future. You know, that kind of idea of looking after your creative community. But do you see it happening? Is it something that you're feeling positive about?
Do you know what? I think overall I am. It's still, like so many things in the screen industries, a little too fragmented. But I think the many organizations working at this are getting better at that collaboration. But yes, it's the freelance community, which is what I know, what I have looked after, as an agent for 35 years. One of the things I'm very aware of is how very isolating being a freelancer can be. And actually, it's also very isolating if you're running a company or you're senior management in a company. All of these things can make you feel that your struggles are yours alone and not replicated anywhere else. And I think one of the most important things we can do is build communities, both to create opportunity, and certainly in the networking events that we have at Sara Putt Associates, the many brilliant networking events that are held at BAFTA, it is very much about creating opportunity for actual employment. But do you know what? It's also just about being able to share the struggles with other people and feel you're not on your own, and get some ideas at times from other people as to what they're doing to deal with it, and some insight from them is so much better than sitting there alone and feeling, as I say, you're the only person going through this.
And how have you seen that play out this year? Can you think of any examples of freelancers where you've been able to make a difference through all the work that you're doing?
I certainly see it, and have always seen it, in the work we do at Sara Putt Associates. So we have a trainee scheme and a foundation, and we have drinks kind of get-togethers at least 3-4 times a year. One of our first assistant directors came to a drinks party earlier in the year and put trainee assistant directors, runners, production runners, forward for the job that he was going on to down in Bristol. So it has real sort of absolutely tangible effects.
And for those who can't reach out to a local community because they're in a rural area or because they're unable to get to an event like that, are there alternatives that we can suggest that they might want to explore? The new technologies are fantastic, but do they stand in for those kind of in-person gatherings?
I don't think they necessarily can replicate, but my goodness, we all used them in lockdown and they were lifesavers. So I think we need to be mindful of that. And certainly in my work at BAFTA, because, the nations and regions are really important to us, and also accessibility, as you've just outlined, is really important. Yes, to have masterclasses, to have panels, to have just get-togethers remotely and on Zoom or whatever technology, I think we do need to retain that. It's not a perfect substitute, but it's certainly better than no contact at all.
I think we're all kind of used to dealing with colleagues who are working remotely. And is there a different set of skills that you think we need in order to help people make the most of that kind of community collegiate approach? Is it a different skill set? Is it a different sort of training that we need? What would encourage this for the future?
One of the things that I think we have very much managed to build within the agency is a collaboration within the same department. I remember another agent said to me many years ago, "Are you mad letting all your clients into a room together? I mean, surely your camera people are going to find out that they're up for the same job, and your producers are going to realize they're up for the same jobs." And it was like, yes, they will. But do you know what? They're quite smart people. They probably realize that anyway. But they have more to gain by talking to each other about jobs, about the work they're doing, than they have by not talking to each other about it. And what we see now, which again is something that warms my heart, is that people will share jobs. I've got this offer, I can't do it, but why don't you do it? So we've really helped to build relationships both between departments, but within the same department as well. So I think the skills people need are just a preparedness to be open, trusting, and honest. And that actually whatever you give away returns to you. And I am a great believer in that.
Do you think there are other gaps that really people need to be skilling up on now, and which the industry is going to suffer from if they don't start plugging those gaps now?
I'm going to go back to that idea of those soft skills, the professional skills. I think we have concentrated too much at times, and we obviously need creative and technical skills in film, television, and games, but perhaps we haven't looked enough at training people to manage, training people in the politics of a film set, of managing. I remember quite a few years ago, one of my young production designers, and she'd been working on quite small indie films with little tiny teams. And she then got onto a big series for a streamer. And she phoned me up and she said, "Sarah, I've got to manage a team of 60 people. How do I do this?" So I think, those are the gaps that are being talked about more, but are still not being talked about enough. Because actually, work becomes better for all of us if the people who are leading us have had some training in doing that.
Do you think there's something special about the screen sector that makes those kinds of connections harder or easier? We deal with a world where we're used to moving between projects at quite a pace. Is that an advantage for the screen sector as it adapts to the new world, or is that kind of freelance first kind of approach to a project by project mean that as a leader it's harder to develop those skills?
I think as a leader, it has been harder. I think what has been hard for a very long time is that the backbone of our industry has been the freelance economy, the freelance community. And for a very long time, nobody really exercised any duty of care to that community. And one can say legally, quite rightly, they are freelance. They have chosen to be freelance. They haven't chosen, like the people who work with us, to be employed. And you, therefore, as an employer, have a duty of care to them. And, as an employer with full-time staff, you want to make sure that good people stay with you long term. So you make sure they have career development. You make sure they have a package that is exciting and satisfying for them. That's never happened with freelancers. I think that is changing, and I think the good companies are really working now to help with that career development for freelancers. So I think things are improving, but still have a long way to go, because it's at its worst, there is this sense that freelancers are like widgets falling off a conveyor belt. That one's broken, send me a new one kind of thing, which is a very, it's out there, but it's not the normal view, I don't think, at all. But on the other hand, I think that freelancers have a natural advantage in the screen sector because they do build brilliant relationships in serving the creativity of a project. And they work incredibly well together. It's what we say to our trainees. You go out and problem solve all the time. All the time you problem solve. And they do it brilliantly through collaboration. They just sometimes don't extend that into the sort of the interpersonal relationships.
Do you think we've got something to learn from a kind of slightly broader approach across the creative industries? We've talked a bit about how that movement happens between film, TV, games, but we're now experiencing a push to see it on a slightly broader level with things like the new regulators standards that are going to apply not just to our sector, but also across the creative sectors. I feel that there may be opportunities where we can look slightly further away for some good working practices. Should that be on our horizon?
Yes, absolutely. I think we always have things to learn from different industries, in the creative world, and Creative UK has really demonstrated that sort of across fashion and publishing and the music industry and theatre. And, one of the joys of being chair of BAFTA has been that ability to kind of get together with chairs and CEOs from other arts-based organisations. But I'd take it further. I mean, on a very personal level, I learnt from the idea which we see if we open our eyes, on every banner or hoarding on every work site in the country, where you will see that hashtag considerate constructors, I think it is. And that those builders, those subcontractors have all signed up to how they will behave in that environment, to how they will treat their workforce, and to how, they will treat the people, the members of the public that they interact with and come across. How about considerate crew? How about the same thing in our world? So I think things like that, sometimes from completely different corners of the business world and industry, can just be quite inspiring.
And it isn't that far away, is it? It isn't that far away, because the construction industry is used to dealing with lots of freelancers. I mean, we call them slightly different terminology, but the same kind of approach. And how about from further afield, as in other countries? Do you get a feel that we're lagging behind, or that we've got things to learn from overseas?
I think we've always got things to learn. I remember many years ago how very excited one of our clients was when he went off to do a French co-production shooting in France, and every day at lunchtime sat down to a 3-course meal and a glass of wine. Thought this was really rather splendid. There are different working practices. It's interesting. I think we sort of sit in the middle between that very sort of publicly funded, supported, particularly film industry in Europe, and the very commercial model in the United States. Back in the day, people worked 8-hour days. And now, I don't know whether you've had a chance to read Bechto's big survey that has just come out, and one of the things they're advocating is that looking at working 8-hour days. I wonder if it'll go full circle.
Yeah, that flexibility is so important. And I know over the years, particularly in terms of the working hours, had a huge impact on inclusion, because there were a limited number of people, there are a limited number of people that can work to those kind of hours in, far away places, be able to travel, stay away from home. I'd see multiple flexible working requests that would just be turned down straight away, because it was the norm to work the long hours. And if you couldn't do it, it was a straight no. So there were people that would get so far in their career and then say, if they chose to have a family, that was it. Their TV career was over.
By no means is this sitting on the male population, each and every one. But as we have seen more women in senior craft roles, it changes the dynamic of those departments. We've got to get the gatekeeper roles changed, and also how we can support everybody, particularly those who don't have family money to fall back on as their careers develop, because it's that transitioning between grades, transitioning into more senior roles. That's where, I think we're doing really well at entry level. And we've really, as an industry, worked at, at entry level. It feels much more inclusive. It feels like there's a real variety of people from all different kinds of backgrounds and with all different life experience. But 10 years in, that doesn't feel quite so diverse.
Sarah, that's been fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing your views on these things. That it is so important. We can't fail. We've got to find a way through some of these issues to make sure that we see them as opportunities and we see them as worth investing in.
And it goes to the very heart of the creativity at our industries, because we need a huge variety of people representing everybody in the country to be in our industries, to tell the stories. Otherwise, the stories become more limited. And it's all about storytelling in the end.
Oh, if it's not about telling the stories, we're doing something wrong, aren't we? Thank you.
It was really good chatting to you, Sarah.
Likewise. Thank you.
I think one of Sarah's key points was making sure we've got the time to build those relationships so we can trust that everyone's going to deliver to the kind of timetables and budgets that we have to work with. Do you feel those opportunities for trust when you're working with your crew? Is there something there that we can help to make sure it's always in place?
I think it's something that a lot of people recognise is necessary and really want to do, but don't necessarily, like we spoke about, the difficulties around budgets and timings. And I thought it was really interesting, the point that Sarah made about these things being at commissioner level, because that's what I'm seeing. The people that are coming to me and saying to me, I want to do this, aren't necessarily the people that have the freedom to make those choices. So they want to do good. They want to create great workplaces. They want to support their people. But if it's not supported at the highest level with the budgets and the time that it's given, they can't do that. So I really appreciated the point that she made there. And I think it would be a great thing for companies to reflect on how they do that moving forward.
And although we don't have the kind of hashtag for the considerate construction industry as an exact equivalent, we do have the CISA standards that have just been published. And it may be worth us spending a little bit of time kind of mapping what we do against those kind of standards, because that's an independent body telling us what's important to have in place. And maybe that will help the funders see the importance of building in these practices right at the beginning of a project. If we can show them that if we have the time and budget to do X, Y, and Z, then we can show that we're achieving the CISA standards, which reduces that risk of those kind of nightmare scenarios that we all read about from time to time in the press. And you and I have to deliver solutions to when it's a bit too late. So it feels as though there's something around, whether it's the CISA standards or whether it's that kind of...
It's making a business case for it, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a business case for it so that people can see the value in it, because if people can't really touch something or put their finger on it, it's difficult for them to understand why they should do it differently. And those of us that think it's really obvious, that's because we operate in those areas, we see those types of things, and it's really easy for us to make the link. But for people that are looking more at data, at figures, at factual information, we need to find a way to... It's telling the story again, isn't it? But it's telling the story to a different audience in a different way, and in a way that helps them to understand why it's important, the impact it's going to have.
Yeah. The platform already has links to some of the kind of support that we think will help. And if anyone has any more ideas, it would be lovely to hear from you, in order to help make sure that we're sharing that kind of information in the kind of community way that Sarah was encouraging us to take as well. Thanks for listening to the Workwise for Screen podcast, supported by the BFI, awarding National Lottery funding.
Our online platform provides lots of easy to understand information and invites to our events. Visit our website at workwiseforscreen.org.uk and register for the latest updates.
And please follow us on social media and join in this crucial conversation.
And contact us with suggestions for future episodes, or if you can, support the programme in any other way. This podcast is produced by 1860. Music is by Benjamin Squires.